My mom handed me a bus ticket instead of a home. You're dead weight. Figure it out, she sneered. I walked away smiling. I always figured if my family ever got rid of me, it'd at least involve yelling. Like, come on. Give me a dramatic speech. Throw a plate. Tell me I ruined Christmas 6 years ago because I sneezed into the mashed potatoes or whatever. Instead, nah. They treated it like canceling a gym membership. Real casual. Real, hey, while you're up, can you take yourself out with the trash? Energy. Which honestly, kind of impressive. I was halfway through a bowl of cereal when my stepdad slid a folder across the kitchen table. A freaking folder. Who uses folders to destroy someone's life? Corporate psychos. Inside was a bus ticket. An envelope with $200. A printed list of homeless youth resources. Not even folded. Fresh off the printer. The ink still smelled warm. That's commitment. I stared at it for a solid minute because my brain straight up blue screened. What's this? My mom didn't even look at me. She kept scrolling Facebook, probably liking inspirational quotes about kindness. Those people always do. You'll understand. No, Linda. I absolutely will not. Explain. Use your words. We need the space. Space. We lived in a townhouse. What space? The hallway where everyone had to crab walk past each other? Apparently my room was becoming an office. Not because anybody worked from home, because my stepdad had started some cryptocurrency podcasts. I'm dead serious. This man had made exactly $38 in 8 months and somehow decided he needed a dedicated studio. For a podcast nobody listened to. I checked once. 4 subscribers. 1 was him. 1 was my mom. 1 was probably a bot from Kazakhstan. The 4th might have been Satan. I looked around waiting for someone to laugh. Nobody did. That's when it hit. Oh, they're serious? Cool. Cool. Love that. Love being evicted over imaginary internet money. Very 21st century. I asked where I was supposed to go. My mom shrugged. Actually shrugged. Like I asked whether it might rain later. You'll figure something out. That's the exact sentence. Burned into my skull forever. You'll figure something out. Parents really love saying that, right after making sure you have absolutely nothing figured out. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain had entered that weird emergency mode where everything becomes hilarious for 5 seconds before permanent emotional damage sets in. So I pointed at the bus ticket. This is it? You're almost 17. I'm 16. Close enough. Close enough? Close enough? Lady, prison sentences have been shorter than your parenting attention span. Then my stepdad had the audacity to smile. Smile like he was helping. We believe this will help you become independent. Independent? Brother. I can't legally rent an apartment. I still need permission slips. Last week I googled whether penguins had knees. I am not independence material. I packed everything into 2 duffel bags because apparently my entire existence fit into about 40 pounds. Kind of humbling, also depressing. Mostly depressing. Nobody helped. Nobody stopped me. Nobody changed their mind. The whole thing felt like I was accidentally attending somebody else's life. Like, surely this can't be mine. Right? Wrong. When I walked downstairs with my bags, my mom asked if I was leaving my desk chair. The chair. She cared about the chair, not me. The chair. I hope that chair squeaks forever. Every meeting. Every podcast. Every stupid motivational speech about crypto. Eek! Justice. The bus station smelled like burnt coffee and regret, which honestly feels like every bus station. Universal law. I sat there for 2 hours because my ticket wasn't until noon. Nobody texted. Nobody called. Nothing. Not even a fake be safe silence. It's weird how loud silence gets. You start hearing dumb stuff. Some kid dropping Skittles. Some guy arguing with a vending machine. A pigeon walking around like he paid taxes. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there wondering if maybe I actually deserved this somehow. That's the dangerous part. When people treat you like you're disposable long enough, you start trying to calculate your own value. Maybe I talked too much. Maybe not enough. Maybe I wasn't funny. Maybe I wasn't athletic. Maybe I should have smiled more. Maybe. No, screw that. Kids don't earn the right to exist. Parents signed up for the job. I didn't submit an application. The bus finally rolled in. I almost got on. Almost. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number? Normally, I ignore those because it's either spam or somebody trying to sell me solar panels, despite me not owning sunlight. But something told me to answer. Hello? You better still be at the station. Deep voice. Didn't recognize it immediately. Who is this? You seriously forgot your shop teacher already? Mr. Alvarez. The only adult who ever noticed when I stopped talking. Great. Fantastic. Now I was gonna cry in public. Awesome. Very masculine. He asked where I was headed. I lied. Badly. I'm visiting somebody. Silence. Then, no you're not. Teachers know. It's honestly creepy. They can smell lies, like sharks smell blood. I'm coming. You don't have to. Click. He hung up. 15 minutes later, this giant beat-up pickup truck screeched into the parking lot looking like it'd survived 3 apocalypses. He got out, took 1 look at my bags, didn't ask questions, didn't lecture me, didn't give me one of those speeches adults love, where they somehow make your trauma about character development. He just said, "You eaten?" That's it. That's all. And somehow, that completely destroyed me, because nobody had asked that all day. Not where I was going. Not if I was okay. Not if I needed help. Just, "You eaten?" I started ugly crying. Not movie crying. Real crying. The kind where your face stops belonging to you. Snorting. Hiccuping. Sounding like a dying lawnmower. 10 out of 10. Would not recommend. He waited. Didn't interrupt. Didn't rush me. Eventually, I told him everything. Every stupid detail. The folder. The bus ticket. The podcast. God saying I got replaced by a crypto podcast out loud somehow made it even more embarrassing. He rubbed both hands over his face. They actually did that? Yep. You got somewhere safe tonight? Nope. You got relatives? Not really. Friends? Maybe. But crashing at someone's house after getting kicked out feels like showing up carrying invisible emotional explosives. Nobody signs up for that. Mr. Alvarez stared at the steering wheel for a long second. Then he sighed. The school has emergency contacts. Yeah, I know someone. Those 4 words changed everything. I had absolutely no clue who he meant. Social worker? Counselor? Foster family? Batman? Honestly, I'd have accepted Batman at that point. He started the truck. I'm not dropping you at that bus. For the first time all day. For the very first freaking time, it felt like maybe the story wasn't ending. Maybe it was just taking a really ugly detour. Still sucked. Still hurt. Still wanted to scream into traffic. But somewhere underneath all the panic, there was this microscopic little feeling. Hope. Tiny. Annoying. Persistent. Like that one popcorn kernel that somehow survives the microwave every single time. And somehow, it refused to die. Hope is annoying. Nobody tells you that. Movies make it look all magical. Little violin music, sunlight, somebody hugs you, roll credits. Actual hope? It shows up looking like an unpaid parking ticket. Tiny. Suspicious. You're 99% sure it's about to screw you over. So yeah, when Mr. Alvarez said he knew someone, my brain immediately assumed I was about to end up in one of those places where every hallway smells like bleach and broken dreams. Instead, he drove me to a bakery. A bakery. What? I literally looked around waiting for the hidden camera. I pointed through the windshield. Is the emergency? He laughed. No. Good. Because if cinnamon rolls solved homelessness, we'd have figured society out years ago. We walked inside. Fresh bread hit me like a hug I wasn't emotionally prepared for. Seriously. How does bread smell like forgiveness? Science needs to answer that. Behind the counter was this woman maybe in her 40s, with flour on her cheek and absolutely zero interest in pretending life was glamorous. She looked at me, looked at my bags, looked at Mr. Alvarez, didn't ask stupid questions, already liked her. Back room. That was all she said. We went through the kitchen, past ovens, past racks of cooling bread, past a teenager aggressively frosting cupcakes like they personally insulted his ancestors. Respect. The woman finally introduced herself. I'm Grace. Doesn't matter yet. That caught me off guard. She smiled. It matters later. Right now you're exhausted. Who talks like that? Normal people, apparently. Wouldn't know. First time meeting one. She handed me a grilled cheese sandwich. Not wrapped. Not microwaved. Actually grilled. Like with butter. I almost proposed. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until I inhaled half of it in one bite. Grace watched me for maybe 10 seconds before quietly making another sandwich. Yeah, she knew. People who feed people always know. Mr. Alvarez explained everything while I focused on not embarrassing myself by crying into cheddar. Grace didn't interrupt once. When he finished, she folded her arms. So, she looked at me. You got any plans besides surviving today? No. Good. Wait, good? She unlocked an office door. Inside was organized chaos. Invoices, recipe books, sticky notes, an ancient radio playing classic rock, a plant that had clearly died during the Obama administration. I've got an apartment upstairs, okay? My nephew moved out last month, okay? It isn't fancy, okay? You can stay there for a little while. My brain just stopped. Again. It kept doing that lately. Somebody needed to update my operating system. Words. Come back. I can't pay rent. I didn't ask. I don't want charity. She snorted so hard I thought she'd choke. Kid? She pointed toward the kitchen. I've got employees who quit because making croissants was emotionally demanding. Fair. Croissants look stressful. I need somebody willing to sweep floors without acting like they're starring in a documentary about suffering. That's oddly specific. You interested? You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a broom. Honestly? Fair enough. The apartment upstairs was tiny. One room, little bathroom, kitchen that looked like it lost a fight with the 70s. Orange cabinets. Why? Every apartment from the 70s looked like somebody feared color blindness. Still, it had a bed, a lamp, a window, and a door that locked. I stood there holding the key for like 5 straight minutes. Nobody had ever handed me a key before. It's weird. Something that small can weigh 100 pounds emotionally. Grace tossed clean sheets onto the mattress. You start tomorrow. Doing what? Whatever needs doing. That's not very specific. Life usually isn't. Dang. She had bakery wisdom. Dangerous woman. That first week absolutely destroyed my legs. Turns out standing for 8 hours isn't something your body enjoys after spending years pretending homework counts as exercise. Who knew? Not me. Sweeping, mopping, unloading flour, running deliveries. Learning that 50-pound bags somehow become 80 pounds if stairs are involved. Physics is a scam. I also met everybody else. Luis. College dropout. Talked so fast Google Translate would have quit. He referred to every inconvenience as character development. Burned toast? Character development. Flat tire? Character development. Dropped your phone into soup? Apparently God was writing your backstory. Then there was Ivy. Professional eye roller. Could communicate entire conversations using facial expressions. The first thing she ever said to me was, "You look emotionally constipated." Thanks? I'm trying to help. I don't think you are. We'll circle back. She became one of my favorite people almost immediately. Against my will. Then life did that thing where it lets you relax for approximately 12 minutes. Before throwing another chair. Through the window. Not literally. Metaphorically. Relax. One afternoon, Grace called everyone into the office. She looked irritated, which was impressive because normally, she looked like someone who could survive a zombie. Apocalypse armed only with sarcasm. The landlord sold the building. Silence. Louise blinked. That's bad, right? She stared. What gave it away? The tone. We've got 60 days. What happens after 60? We leave. Just like that. No dramatic music. No negotiation. Some investor from out of state bought the whole block. Wanted boutique retail. Luxury branding. Minimalist aesthetic. The kind of places where coffee costs $11 because somebody sprinkled cinnamon while making eye contact. Apparently, normal bakeries weren't on brand. Cool. Love capitalism. Huge fan. Grace had owned this bakery almost 20 years. Birthday cakes, wedding cakes, graduation cookies. Half the neighborhood practically grew up eating her food. Didn't matter. Spreadsheet said no. So now everybody was scrambling, looking for buildings, calculating costs, packing equipment, stress everywhere. And here's the weird thing. Nobody told me to leave. Nobody acted like I was temporary. Instead, Grace handed me a notebook. Inventory. Luis threw me truck keys. Need deliveries. Ivy shoved tape into my hands. Boxes don't fold themselves. Nobody asked whether I belonged. They just assumed I did, which somehow felt stranger than being rejected. Acceptance takes practice too. One night we were packing old decorations when Grace found this faded corkboard covered in pictures. Employees. Customer, kids holding birthday cakes, families, couples, dogs wearing birthday hats. Dogs don't even know it's their birthday. They're just happy to be invited. Life lesson right there. Grace quietly pulled one photo off the board. Young version of herself, standing beside a guy wearing an apron. He looked hilarious. Huge mustache, terrible haircut, peak dad energy. My husband. I nodded. He started this place. Where is he now? She smiled. Small. Sad. He isn't. Oh, crap. Brain. Abort. I looked at the floor so hard it almost apologized. She laughed softly. Relax. I am so sorry. You didn't know. Still felt like I'd stepped on a landmine wearing flip-flops. She pinned the picture into her notebook. He would have liked you. Really? He always rooted for lost kids. Lost. Funny word. I hadn't thought of myself like that. Homeless? Sure. Confused? Absolutely. Terrified? Every single day. Lost? Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'd been lost long before the bus station. Maybe I'd just finally wandered into people willing to help me find the map. Cheesy. Gross. Whatever. It's true. Then, because apparently the universe cannot resist timing, Grace's phone rang. She answered. Listen. Didn't speak. Her face changed. Not panic. Worse. Calculation. She hung up. Looked straight at us. The buyer isn't waiting 60 days anymore. What? They want possession by next Friday. Luis dropped a roll of packing tape. Ivy actually stopped rolling her eyes. I stopped breathing. 7 days. The bakery. The apartment. The first place that had ever felt remotely like home was about to disappear before I even figured out how to believe it was real. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Because apparently my life had officially become one long series of, oh, you finally feel safe? Wham. Try again. I expected everybody to panic, like full disaster movie, people screaming, boxes flying, Luis dramatically sacrificing himself to save the industrial mixer. Instead, Grace clapped her hands once. Everybody finish what you're doing. That was it. No meltdown. No inspirational speech. No, we're a family. Honestly, refreshing. Nothing makes me trust an adult less than hearing, we're a family. Corporate managers ruined that sentence for everybody. The next morning, the bakery was packed. Not because people suddenly discovered bread existed. Word got out. Neighborhood gossip travels faster than Wi-Fi. Mrs. Donnelly from across the street bought 12 loaves. She lives alone. Unless pigeons started eating sourdough, there was absolutely no reason for 12. An old mechanic came in and ordered 30 cinnamon rolls. 30, brother. Either he had a baseball team hiding somewhere or diabetes had accepted his challenge. Nobody was buying food. They were buying time. It would have been sweet if it didn't also make my chest hurt. Because you can't hug a building into staying open. Trust me. I mentally tried. Didn't work. Then around lunchtime, a guy in an expensive suit walked in. You ever meet somebody who somehow smells expensive? Like, not cologne. Just money. This dude looked like he'd complain if oxygen wasn't filtered. He glanced around like the bakery personally offended him. I'm looking for the owner. Grace walked over. I'm Grace. I'm here to inspect the property before renovation. Renovation. Cute word. Sounds way nicer than erase everything people loved. He wandered around taking pictures. Didn't even ask. Just snapping photos like he was documenting endangered wildlife. Then he pointed at the display case. That'll have to go. Grace smiled politely. It already is. The flooring is outdated. Probably. The ceiling needs replacing. You're likely right. The guy frowned. You could tell he wanted an argument. Some people don't know what to do when nobody fights back. He finally left. The entire bakery collectively exhaled. Luis muttered, I hope both sides of his pillow are warm forever. Now that's a curse. Creative. Personal. Respect. By Thursday, we'd packed almost everything. The walls looked weird without all the pictures. Empty rooms echo differently. They don't just repeat sounds. They repeat memories. Every scrape of a chair sounded bigger. Every laugh bounced around longer, like the building itself wasn't ready to let go. Friday morning, the locks changed. Just like that. Game over. Grace handed in her keys. No speeches, no tears, just a quiet nod. I thought she'd break. Instead, she looked at us and said, Who's hungry? Ma'am. Are you emotionally invincible? Turns out she'd already rented the community center kitchen for the weekend. Temporary permit, limited equipment, way smaller. But enough to keep taking orders. Everybody immediately piled into cars hauling mixers, trays, flour, racks, pure chaos. I somehow ended up riding in Luis's truck. Big mistake. He sings. Constantly. Terribly. Confidently. Those are the dangerous ones. People who know they can't sing are harmless. People convinced they're amazing. National security threat. Halfway there, he suddenly asked, So, you still think of yourself as temporary? What? You unpacked? Yeah. You put pictures on the walls? I don't have pictures. You bought a laundry basket? What kind of question is that? A serious one. Yeah. He grinned. Told you. Told me what? People only buy laundry baskets when they accidentally start believing they'll stay somewhere. That was annoyingly insightful. Stupid laundry basket. Traitor. The community center kitchen looked rough. Old ovens, tiny prep tables, one refrigerator held together entirely by optimism. But by Monday morning, the place smelled like fresh bread again. Customers somehow found us. Somebody made handwritten signs pointing people toward the building. Then more signs appeared. Then kids started drawing arrows in sidewalk chalk. I swear one old lady stood outside redirecting traffic like an unpaid crossing guard. Nobody asked her to. She just declared herself mayor of carbohydrates. Business wasn't booming, but it was alive, which honestly felt like enough. Then Tuesday afternoon, Grace called me outside. There, she pointed across the street. An abandoned hardware store. Huge windows. Brick walls. Dust everywhere. It just went up for lease. Seriously? She nodded. I've wanted that building for years. It looks kind of awful. It has good bones. Adults always say buildings have bones, which is horrifying if you think about it too long. We crossed over. The realtor unlocked the door. Inside was a mess. Broken shelves. Paint peeling. Spiderwebs paying rent. But it was huge. Massive kitchen space in the back. Natural light everywhere. Even I could see it. This place wasn't dead. It was waiting. Grace walked slowly through every room. Didn't say much. Just smiled to herself. Then she stopped. I can't afford it. Well, that sucked. We drove back mostly quiet. Life has incredible timing. Shows you exactly what you want. Then reminds you your wallet disagrees. That night I couldn't sleep. So I wandered downstairs. Community center was empty. Except for one room. Lights on. Voices. I peeked inside. Grace. Luis. Ivy, a bunch of neighborhood people, Mrs. Donnelly, the mechanic, teachers, parents, even Coach Reynolds from the high school. Why was everyone here? Louis spotted me. There he is. Grace looked mildly annoyed. You were supposed to be asleep. I failed. Clearly. Mrs. Donnelly waved me over. Sit. Why? No questions. Suspicious. Very suspicious. There was a giant notebook open on the table, pages covered in names, phone numbers, dollar amounts, sketches, ideas. One guy spoke up. We've been talking about the bakery. Another woman smiled. We're not losing it. I blinked. What do you mean? The hardware store. Yeah? We think it belongs here. Silence. I looked around the room. Nobody looked uncertain. Nobody looked dramatic. Just busy. Planning. Organizing. Arguing about permits. Fundraisers. Volunteer crews. Electrical work. Construction schedules. Like they'd collectively decided, actually, no, not because anybody expected a miracle. Because they expected work, real work, messy work, the kind that takes months, maybe years. And suddenly I understood something that somehow nobody had ever taught me. Families aren't always the people who raise you. Communities aren't always places you happen to live. Sometimes, they're just the people who quietly refuse to let you fall alone. No hashtags, no speeches, no viral moments, just showing up again and again and again. Grace noticed me staring. You okay? I laughed. I think so. You sure? No. Good. What? Means you're paying attention. Everybody kept talking around me. Nobody asked me to leave. Nobody treated me like a kid sitting at the adults' table. Louise shoved a clipboard into my hands. You're in charge of volunteers under 18. I'm what? You heard me. I've literally never been in charge of anything. He shrugged. Guess today's your lucky day. Lucky. That's one word for it. Terrifying also works. I looked down at the blank sign-up sheets. People actually trusted me to organize something. Me. The same kid who, like 2 weeks ago, couldn't imagine tomorrow. Now strangers expected me to help build one. Honestly, that was way scarier than being alone. Because failing yourself hurts. Failing people who believe in you, that's the kind of thing that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. I picked up the pen anyway. My handwriting looked terrible. My confidence looked worse, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't writing down somewhere I had to go. I was helping write down something we were about to build. Building something from scratch is deeply offensive to your knees. Nobody tells you that either. You hear about hard work. Character. Dedication. Cool. Fantastic. Where's the warning label that says, warning, everything below your waist will file formal complaints. For the next 2 months, my life became one long blur of dust. Paint, spreadsheets, donated bagels, and people yelling measurements across empty rooms. 6 inches? Which 6 inches? The important ones. That didn't clear anything up. The old hardware store slowly stopped looking abandoned. First, the broken shelves disappeared. Then the cracked windows. Fresh paint went up. New lights. New ovens rolled in. Watching industrial ovens get moved is terrifying, by the way. Those things weigh approximately 1 blue whale. I don't know if that's scientifically accurate. Emotionally? Absolutely. Meanwhile, I somehow became the volunteer guy. Again, huge administrative error. Every Saturday, I'd unlock the doors before everyone arrived. Teenagers wandered in carrying paint rollers. Parents brought toolboxes. Retired electricians argued with retired plumbers for fun. I swear they enjoyed disagreeing more than actually fixing anything. One afternoon, they spent 45 minutes debating a pipe. A pipe. Not politics. Not religion. Pipe. Old people unlock secret side quests after retirement. Then there was 12-year-old Mason. Tiny kid. Huge confidence. Walked up carrying one hammer. One. Like he was about to personally construct civilization. I'm here to help. You know how to use that? No. Didn't respect the honesty. Within 20 minutes, he'd accidentally glued his own glove to a paint tray. Honestly, could have been worse. Could have glued himself to the ceiling. Low expectations save lives. The weirdest part wasn't the work. It was realizing people actually listened when I spoke. The first time someone asked, hey, where do you want these boxes? I turned around to see who they were talking to. Nobody. It was me. Little old me. The former human background decoration. I almost answered, I don't know, ask an adult. Then I remembered. Apparently I was one. Well, emotionally adjacent to one. Close enough. One evening, Grace found me sitting on the front steps after everybody had gone home. I was absolutely cooked. Mentally, physically, spiritually. Even my socks were tired. She handed me 2 root beers. Glass bottles. Fancy. You've been quiet. I'm thinking, dangerous hobby. Seriously. I know. We sat there watching the sunset bounce off the windows. We'd spent all afternoon cleaning. Finally, I asked, can I ask you something weird? I'd be disappointed if you didn't. Why'd you trust me? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she took a sip. Because someone trusted me. That's it? That's enough. I frowned. No interview? No. No background check? You look terrified. Fair. I've learned scared people usually need a chance more than another. Interrogation. Dang. She really collected life lessons like Pokemon cards. Then she looked at me. Besides? You've stopped apologizing every time you walk into a room. Wait, had I? I actually thought about it. Huh. She was right. I used to apologize for everything. Sorry. Excuse me. My bad. Sorry. Existing. Breathing too loudly. Occupying approximately 3 square feet of earth. Somewhere along the way, I'd quit doing that. Nobody told me to. It just stopped. Wild. Opening day came way faster than any of us expected. We unlocked the new bakery at 7 in the morning. Nobody knew if people would actually show up. Maybe we'd overestimated everything. Maybe the neighborhood had moved on. Maybe the line was already outside. Excuse me? There were people wrapped around the block. Actual humans. Waiting. Half of them weren't even customers. They were volunteers coming back just to see the place finished. Mrs. Donnelly cried immediately, like, instantly. Didn't even try to hide it. The mechanic hugged literally everybody, even strangers. Poor strangers. Hope they stretched first. Louise saw the crowd and whispered, "Holy," then looked at Grace. Can I say it? No. Fair. The entire day was complete chaos. We ran out of croissants by 8:30, cookies by 10, muffins before lunch. Mason proudly announced he'd sold 37 brownies. Nobody had asked him to count. He just did. Future accountant. Or supervillain. Those careers overlap more than you'd think. Around closing time, I finally got a second to breathe. I wandered over to the wall near the entrance. Grace had hung all the old bakery pictures back up. Every single one. Wedding cakes, birthday parties, employees, kids, families, history. Then I noticed one more frame. Brand new. Taken just that morning. All of us standing outside the finished bakery, covered in flour, looking exhausted, smiling like complete idiots. Grace walked over. Needed one more. I stared at it. I've never been in a family picture before. She looked genuinely confused. You are now? Simple. Matter of fact. Like she was reminding me the sky was blue. No dramatic speech. No emotional orchestra. Just, you are now. That almost got me. Almost. I managed to hold it together until closing. Then everybody left. Lights dimmed, kitchen finally quiet. I grabbed the broom automatically. Habit. Grace laughed. We're closed. I know. So why are you sweeping? Feels weird not to. She leaned against the counter. You know what I think? Dangerous question. I think you're finally planning for tomorrow. I looked around. Really looked. The shelves. The ovens. The chairs we'd assembled. The ridiculous orange coffee mugs Louise insisted were vintage. They weren't vintage. They were ugly. There's a difference. Outside, people were still talking on the sidewalk. Kids laughing. Cars driving past. Somebody carrying a cake out to celebrate something. Didn't matter what. Everything deserves cake, even surviving, especially surviving. A few months ago, I'd been sitting alone in a bus station convinced my entire life fit inside 2 duffel bags. I honestly believed that was all I was worth. Turns out, people aren't luggage. You can't measure a life by how little it weighs. You measure it by who notices when you're gone, who saves you a seat, who hands you food before asking questions, who trusts you with a key, who believes you'll show up tomorrow. Funny enough, I still have that bus ticket. Never used it. Found it crumpled in the bottom of one of my bags while unpacking weeks ago. I almost threw it away. Couldn't. Not because I missed that day. Absolutely not. That day sucked. 0 stars. Would not recommend. I kept it because it reminds me of something. Sometimes the thing that looks like the end of your life is just really bad directions. And thank God, because if I'd gotten on that bus, I would have missed the teacher who stopped. The bakery. The people who became my people. The world's loudest cinnamon roll customers. One overconfident 12-year-old with a glue addiction. A laundry basket that accidentally predicted my future. And a place that finally answered a question I'd been carrying around for years without even realizing it. What does home actually feel like? Turns out, it isn't the building. It isn't the key. It isn't even the people. It's the moment you stop wondering whether you're allowed to stay. And just start making coffee before everyone else gets there.